People think betrayal comes with a bang, a shouted argument, a slammed door, a dramatic confession. But mine came quietly, like the whisper of a blade just before it cuts. Her name was Ellie, my wife, my anchor, or so I thought. We were married for 7 years. Not the longest stretch, but long enough to memorize the way someone laughs when they're truly surprised, the rhythm of their footsteps down the hall, and the little sigh she gave every time she flopped on the couch after work. She used to do that sigh into my shoulder. I still remember the last time she did it. June 7th. That's the kind of detail you remember when your life hits rewind. The signs were subtle at first. Missed calls. A new password on her phone. A cologne that didn't belong to either of us, clinging to the passenger seatbelt. I told myself she was just stressed. New project at work, longer hours. She needed space. What she needed was someone else's bed. I found out on a Tuesday. Funny how ordinary the day was. I came home early, surprise bouquet in one hand, takeout in the other. I walked in on her whispering into the phone, giggling like she used to with me. Only now, it sounded foreign. She didn't see me at first. "Can't wait till he leaves again," she said, voice low, intimate. "You make the world stop, you know that." I did what any man with a pulse and a shred of self-respect would do. I stood very still. I listened. And when she finally turned and saw me, her eyes widened, not in guilt, but in annoyance. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked. "Long enough," I replied. The silence that followed was deafening. And that was just the beginning. We didn't argue. Not right then. She hung up the phone, didn't even rush it, just ended the call like she was closing a grocery list app, and looked me dead in the eye. "You shouldn't eavesdrop," she said. I blinked. "You shouldn't cheat." She rolled her eyes. Rolled them, like I'd just accused her of forgetting to buy milk. "Don't make this a thing, Nate," she said, walking past me like I was a lamp she'd grown bored of. "You've been distant for months. That's the card. The classic. It's your fault I climbed into someone else's life." The deflection so well rehearsed, it could have won an award. I didn't sleep that night. She did. Out cold. Meanwhile, I lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan like it had answers. The next morning, she made eggs. Like normal. Asked if I wanted any. I said no. She said, "Suit yourself," and that was that. But inside, something had shifted, like a fault line cracking under my ribs. So I did what every man who's been blindsided and humiliated does. I dug. Phone records. Bank statements. Social media. You think you know how private someone is until you realize just how many digital breadcrumbs they leave behind when they stop caring if you find them. The guy's name was Carter. He wore leather bracelets and had one of those philosopher bro beards. His Instagram looked like a catalog for artisanal stupidity, latte art, rooftop selfies, and enough shirtless mirror shots to make a Calvin Klein model cringe. Ellie had liked every single one, even the ones from years ago. That night, I sat at the dinner table across from her and asked, "So, when were you planning to tell me?" She sipped her wine. "Tell you what. The affair." She tilted her head. "What affair?" I stared, and then she smiled. "It was just talking, Nate. Just words. You're really going to implode over some messages." She really thought I'd believe that. Worse, she thought I'd accept it. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't punch a wall like every TV husband with a broken heart. I just nodded. "Right," I said. "Just words." Ellie smiled. A victory smile, like she'd gotten away with sneaking a cheat sheet into a test. But here's the thing about smiles. They're easy to fake when the stakes feel low. And clearly, she still thought I was the Nate who'd go quietly. The steady, predictable guy she could lie to with impunity. Spoiler, that Nate was gone. The next few days were, well, weird. She kept up appearances, date nights, inside jokes. She even suggested we take a weekend away to reconnect. That's when I knew she was planning an exit strategy. You see, Ellie wasn't the type to jump unless there was a soft landing. And Carter? He was the cushion. Some muscled-up poet with zero ambition, but lots of tattoos. Real safe bet for a woman addicted to novelty. So I played along. I laughed when she laughed. Kissed her cheek when she pretended to forget she was emotionally cheating. I was patient, methodical, like a man planting seeds in the spring, knowing full well the harvest would be bitter. And while she thought I was melting back into complacency, I was building my case. I met with a lawyer, quietly transferred some funds, found a tech-savvy friend who could pull phone backups from the cloud. I saw everything. The texts, The voice notes. The photos. She called him C. Said I was emotionally vacant. Said being with him felt like breathing again. She also said, and I quote, Nate's too vanilla. He's the guy you marry, not the one you want. Funny thing is, I was vanilla. Until she stirred in the vinegar. Carter texted her every morning like clockwork. Good morning, beautiful, followed by some emoji that screamed midlife crisis. Ellie's replies dripped with validation. Missed you all night. Last night was unreal. Can't wait until we're free. The last one stuck with me. Until we're free. Free from what? A mortgage? A shared Netflix account? Or me, the man she once promised to love, even when it's boring? Spoiler again. I was the anchor she decided to cut loose. But I wasn't about to drift quietly into the fog. Ellie had a habit of underestimating people who didn't yell. She thought calm meant weak. That restraint was the same as surrender. But what she didn't realize was that I'd grown up with silence. My father had taught me how to weaponize it. He was a quiet man. Too quiet. The kind of man who could express a whole paragraph with one slow look. I used to think that made him distant, until I got older and realized that kind of silence takes discipline. Control. That was the kind of silence I sat in now. For 2 weeks, I lived in the eye of the storm, smiling when she walked in the room, bringing her coffee like I used to, asking about her day like I cared. She thought we were healing, that she'd dodged the bullet. Meanwhile, I was loading the chamber. You learn things when you stop reacting. You see patterns. Habits. Like how she always left her phone in the laundry room during showers because that was the one room in the house with no mirrors. No reflective surfaces. Nothing to give her away. She used her work phone to FaceTime him during lunch breaks. Claimed it was Zoom calls with suppliers. She even made a fake invoice template to flash on screen in case I walked in. Impressive, really. Like watching a magician who thinks the audience is blind. But here's the part that stunned the most. She was happy. Giddy, even. She hummed when she cooked. Danced around the kitchen. Wore dresses I hadn't seen in years. Sprayed perfume like she was starring in her own little rom-com. It's a strange kind of pain, watching someone enjoy the betrayal. Like walking in on a party you weren't invited to, only to realize the party's in your own damn house. One night, I finally asked, So, Carter. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. What about him? She asked slowly. I just want to know, did you fall in love with him? Or did you just fall out of love with me? She chewed. Slowly. Like stalling would make the question disappear. I think, she said, I fell in love with the version of myself I am when I'm with him. I nodded. That's honest, I said. Cold as hell, but honest. She looked down, twisting her napkin. I didn't want it to be like this. But you still chose it, I replied. That night, I didn't sleep on the couch. I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed next to her and stared at the ceiling while she drifted off beside me, peaceful as a child. The woman I used to protect was now the woman I needed protecting from. I thought about confrontation, about dragging Carter into the light, about slamming every piece of evidence on the table and shouting, explain this. But no, that's not how my story ends. Not with fireworks. With precision. Revenge, when done properly, isn't an explosion. It's a pressure point. Gentle. Surgical. Silent. So I waited for the right moment. A trip she'd been planning for weeks. A solo getaway to clear her head. She told me she was going to a wellness retreat. I told her to enjoy it. Even packed her bags. Slipped in a surprise of my own, a small tracking device tucked inside the lining. She went to a cabin 3 towns over. Not a wellness retreat. A lake house. Carter met her there. I watched it unfold on my phone. His car pulling into the gravel driveway. The way she ran into his arms like something out of a perfume commercial. The way he carried her inside like I never did. Romantic, poetic, temporary. Because I'd already called the owner of the cabin. Carter didn't own it. A friend of a friend did. I paid him a visit the day before and offered him a generous favor in exchange for a key and 2 hours alone inside. I left them a gift. Something that would, let's say, complicate the weekend. A framed photo of Ellie and me on our wedding day placed neatly on the nightstand. A printout of her text to Carter, you make the world stop, taped to the mirror. And a flash drive on the pillow. It contained every text, every call log, every piece of digital love lettering she thought she'd hidden. I didn't include commentary, just the receipts. I figured if she loved being with him so much, he should get the full story. No filters. The next morning, Ellie came home early. Said the lake was too crowded. I nodded. You two fight? I asked. No, she lied. But her eyes were raw. Her smile forced. And just like that, the air shifted again. She moved a little slower the next day. Didn't hum while she cooked. The dresses went back in the closet. The spark? Gone. It wasn't over yet. But the mask was slipping. And I was just getting started. Ellie didn't ask if I'd been to the lake house. She didn't ask how the wedding photo ended up on the nightstand, or who had put the flash drive on the pillow like a mint at a hotel. She didn't need to. She knew. And now, so did Carter. It's amazing what silence does to people. After everything, you'd expect yelling, slamming doors, some half-baked apology between crocodile tears. But no, Ellie just slowed down. Like a computer struggling with a virus it can't quite process. She moved through the house like someone walking underwater, going through the motions, waiting for a rescue that wasn't coming. We had dinner in silence. I chewed my food. She picked at hers. She used to talk about her day, about clients, coworkers, the way Janice in marketing smelled like artificial lemons and moral bankruptcy. No? Nothing. On day 3 after the trip, she said, "We need to talk." Ah, yes, the phrase that always precedes a rational, mature conversation or a nuclear detonation. I leaned back in my chair. Go ahead. She stared at her glass of wine, swirled it slowly like it would reveal a prophecy. Then, I'm sorry. I nodded. For what? Her eyes flashed. Don't do that. Don't act like you're above this. I'm not above it, I said. I'm just finally level with it. She set the glass down harder than she needed to. Look, I messed up, but I was lonely. You stopped showing up a long time ago. There it was again, the rerun of the "you made me do this" special. She expected me to take the bait, to apologize for making her cheat on me. Impressive mental gymnastics, really. You could have talked to me, I said. You could have said you were drowning before dragging someone else into our lifeboat. I tried. She snapped. You just didn't hear me. I heard you. I just didn't realize you were planning to scream it into someone else's pillow. That one landed. Her jaw tensed. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was surgical, dissecting whatever was left between us. The next morning, I noticed her suitcases in the hallway. Neat. Packed. Zipped. She walked out of the bedroom with a folded note in her hand. This isn't an admission of guilt, she said, handing it to me. It's just time. I opened it after she left. Nate, you're not the man I fell in love with, but you are the man I build a life with. That means something, even if I forgot it along the way. Maybe Carter was a mistake. Maybe he was just a flashlight in a dark room I refused to leave. But I'm sorry. For the secrecy. For the cowardice. For thinking you wouldn't notice. You always notice everything. Don't make this ugly. Let's just end it with some dignity. Ellie. Dignity. Funny word, coming from a woman who thought hiding an affair behind a throw pillow was tactical genius. But sure, let's end it with dignity. So I called my lawyer. And that's when the tide turned. Because Ellie didn't know I'd been preparing for this for months. The tracking. The call logs. The financial statements. The hotel receipts. My lawyer didn't just build a case, he built a fortress. When the divorce papers landed in her inbox, she was expecting a clean split. 50-50. She didn't expect the clause about Carter. Turns out, in our state, adultery doesn't just ruin trust, it tilts the scales. Especially when you can prove it with digital precision. She committed marital misconduct. I had evidence down to the timestamps. She showed up at my office that afternoon. You're using this against me? She asked, clutching the folder like it might burn through her hands. I'm using the truth, I said. If that's a problem, you should have edited the script before inviting a supporting actor. Nate, this is vindictive. No, Ellie. Vindictive would have been putting this on social media. I'm giving you a private audience. Her eyes welled up, and for a moment, I saw the woman I married. Scared. Sorry. Small. But I wasn't Nate the comforter anymore. I was Nate the archivist. And I had receipts. She didn't cry. Not fully. Just one of those held-back sobs that catches in the throat. She sat down in the chair across from my desk, suddenly unsure of her place in the room. That was new. What do you want? She whispered. Nothing, I said. That's the point. I'm not fighting you for assets. I'm not asking for alimony. I just want you to know you didn't break me. You gave me clarity. She blinked. You'll be okay, Nate. I know, I said. Will you? She didn't answer. And that was enough. After she left the office, the quiet settled in like dust. That thick, weighty kind of quiet that doesn't just fill a room, it inhabits it. I sat there for a while, alone, fingers steepled, staring at the door she had just walked through for what might be the last time in her capacity as my wife. Funny how a woman can live in your home for years, leave her hair in the sink, her perfume on the pillows, and the moment she walks out, the house starts to feel like yours again. That night, I stood in the hallway for a long time. No sound but the hum of the fridge and the occasional tick of the baseboard heaters adjusting to the chill. I looked at my bedroom. Her side was still made, untouched. Her robe still hung on the door hook like a ghost of routine. I could have thrown it out. I didn't. Not yet. Not because I missed her, because I wanted to study the remnants. The next few days moved like molasses. Divorce lawyers did their dance. She signed the papers with less pushback than I expected, probably because she realized dragging this out only made her guilt more obvious. Carter didn't show up once. I imagine his charm wore thin once the relationship moved out of the shadows. Ellie moved into a rental across town. She didn't take much, just her clothes, a few books, the blender. She left the wedding album. I found it in the closet behind the Christmas decorations, tucked away like a memory she wasn't ready to erase but couldn't keep looking at. I opened it once. Just once. There she was in her white dress, eyes wide with hope. And there I was, staring at her like she was the future itself. I didn't cry. I laughed, dry and quiet. You really had us both fooled, I muttered. 2 weeks later, I ran into Carter. At a gas station, of all places. He was filling up his tank, leaned against his overpriced SUV with sunglasses on even though the sun was dipping behind the trees. He hadn't noticed me yet. He was scrolling his phone, probably checking to see if Ellie had unblocked him. I walked over. Calmly. No rush. Just a man in need of closure, or perhaps something else. Carter. He looked up, startled. Tried to hide it. Failed. Oh. Nate. Didn't see you there, man. Yeah. I said, you didn't see a lot of things. He smiled, nervously. Look, man, I didn't mean for any of that to happen. It just did. You know how it goes, people connect. Sparks fly. I nodded. Sure. And then sparks fizzle. His smile twitched. She's single now, you know, he offered weakly. If you're worried about us, don't be. Worried? No, I said. Just curious. About what? I stepped in a little closer. How does it feel to be Plan B? His jaw clenched. I wasn't. Oh, you were. You were her escape hatch. The emergency exit. She needed a break from herself, and you were just conveniently stupid enough to volunteer. Congrats. His lips parted, but no sound came out. So I gave him one last look and turned away. That night, Ellie called. First time in a month. Hey, she said softly. I heard you saw Carter. Didn't know we were keeping score. She sighed. I just wanted to make sure. Things didn't get out of hand. Afraid I broke a nail on his pretty little jaw? She was quiet. Then, I just don't want things to get uglier than they already are. I almost laughed. Uglier? No, sweetheart. Uglier was the night I realized the woman I loved had more loyalty to a man with gelled hair and a Spotify playlist titled Midnight Feels than to the guy who built a life with her. Things are fine, I said. We're not getting ugly. We're just getting honest. Ellie didn't argue. She knew that was worse. Weeks passed. The house slowly purged her presence. Her scent faded. Her name stopped slipping into conversations. I slept better. Ate better. Thought clearer. One evening, I went through her old bookshelf and found a journal tucked between 2 psychology texts. No lock. No drama. Just a little red notebook with her initials in cursive. I shouldn't have read it. But curiosity isn't always polite. Most entries were mundane. Grocery lists, dreams she half remembered, quotes from books. But one stuck out. Dated 3 weeks before I confronted her. Carter says I smile more when I'm with him. But it's not the same smile I had with Nate. That one felt earned. That was the first time I felt a flicker of something close to pity. She was chasing a feeling, not a future. And she lost both. I'd always believed that if you stayed calm, stayed rational, you could survive anything. You don't flinch when someone throws a punch, you watch. You duck. And if you're patient enough, you wait until they overextend. That was how I treated my marriage in those last months. As a tactical exercise. But even chess has casualties. Ellie had officially moved out. Her mail stopped arriving. Her name was removed from the bills. It was just me in the house now, me and the echo of footsteps that didn't come back down the hall. I thought I'd feel free. Victorious, even. Instead, I felt like a man who had won a war and realized the battlefield was his front yard. One day, I was cleaning out the garage when I found her old canvas tote bag tucked behind a stack of broken garden tools. Inside were sketchbooks. I had forgotten Ellie used to draw. Before the meetings, the late nights, and the Carter-induced amnesia, she had a talent. Flipping through the pages, I saw the evolution, early ones of our dog, of flowers in a vase, of our cabin trip to Lake Chelan. Then came the darker sketches. Faces with no eyes. A house cracking in the middle. A woman standing in front of a mirror. Only her reflection was walking away. It hit me then. Ellie hadn't just betrayed me. She'd slowly disappeared. Over the years, piece by piece, she traded vulnerability for novelty, comfort for chaos. And in the process, I became the mirror she no longer wanted to face. That weekend, I took a trip up north. Nothing dramatic, just a small Airbnb on the coast. I brought a notebook, not for revenge plans or lists, just to write again. I used to journal in college, back before I met Ellie and became someone else's structure. The first entry was one sentence. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. I filled the notebook fast. Not about Ellie, not directly. I wrote about silence. About the smell of rain on pine needles. About the feeling of watching fog crawl over the ocean without needing to post about it. Somewhere between page 40 and page 60, I realized I wasn't trying to recover. I was trying to return. On the third night, my phone buzzed. Ellie. I stared at the screen. For words. Can we talk? Please. I didn't respond right away. I walked down to the shore. Let the salt wind hit me. Let my toes sink into cold sand. When I got back to the cabin, I texted. About what? She called immediately. I saw something today, she said, voice trembling. A couple. They were laughing, holding hands, eating ice cream. And for a second, I thought, God, that used to be us. Ellie, what do you want from me? I don't know. I think I just wanted you to know I remember. That I miss parts of you. The real you. Not the angry, hurt one. That was rich. The angry one only exists because the loyal one got stabbed. I said. Silence. I know, she whispered. And I'll carry that. I'm not asking to come back. I'm just saying you mattered. You still do. I didn't have words for that. Not then. Maybe not ever. So I hung up. Not because I was cruel, but because I was done letting her take pieces of me for closure. A week later, the divorce finalized. The judge looked at both of us, asked if we had anything to say. Ellie shook her head. I said one thing. Thank you for your honesty, even if it came too late. The courtroom didn't clap. No music swelled. We just signed papers and left through different doors. Afterward, I didn't go home. I went to a diner, ordered a burger and a black coffee, watched old couples bicker over crossword puzzles. A man at the counter accidentally spilled his orange juice, and the woman beside him laughed so hard she cried. That's when it hit me. Life doesn't stop for heartbreak. It limps a little, maybe, but it keeps walking. When I got home, there was a small envelope on the porch. Inside, a key. A note. Just in case. I stared at it. Then I tossed it into the trash. Because the man she was leaving the key for? He doesn't live here anymore. The house got quieter after the papers were signed. Not in that eerie, haunted way. More like the kind of quiet that follows a storm, when the windows stop rattling and you realize the walls are still standing. There's a clarity in that silence. A strange, peaceful void where pain used to sit and throw tantrums. I started waking up before the alarm again. Went running. Bought groceries without mentally checking if Ellie liked almond milk. I stopped walking past the aisle with her favorite cereal like it was radioactive. I didn't smile a lot, but I didn't flinch anymore either. There were moments when I caught myself thinking about her. Not fondly, not bitterly, just accurately. I remembered the way she'd laugh in the car when an old song came on, or how she used to hum when she watered the plants. Then I remembered the lies. The gaslighting. The way she folded her betrayal like a sweater she thought I wouldn't notice. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Then came the letter. A real one. Handwritten. No return address, just my name. I opened it slowly, half expecting a last plea or some poetic goodbye. Instead, it read, You were the best man I've ever known. I just wasn't ready for a good man. Not then. Maybe not ever. I hope you find someone who won't flinch at peace. I burned the letter in the fire pit that night. Watched the words curl and vanish. Then I made myself a drink and toasted the flames. To peace. To clarity. To the man I had to become to survive her. Months passed. Carter disappeared from her life faster than he entered. A friend told me he moved to Seattle. Good. Let him reinvent himself somewhere new. Somewhere I don't have to see his Kelowna and chaos persona haunting my streets. Ellie? I heard she's seeing a therapist, doing yoga, trying to find herself. Maybe she will. I don't wish her harm, but I also don't wish her back. I started writing again. Not just journals, actual stories. Fiction, but flavored with truth. A publisher friend read one and said, "You should publish this. It feels raw, real." I laughed. That's because every word was earned. Life wasn't a fairy tale now, but it was mine. I controlled the tempo, the scenery, the script, and I was no longer sharing the stage with someone rehearsing for another man's applause. One morning, I found a small box on my porch. No note. Inside, her wedding ring. I stared at it. Cold, weightless metal that once held so much meaning. I didn't keep it. I didn't return it. I threw it into the lake where we used to picnic. The splash was small. Fitting. I never meant to go looking for Carter. But fate, or irony, sometimes hands you a loaded deck. A friend texted me a photo. Carter, on a stretcher. His face swollen. Broken wrist. Mugged, they said. No suspects. I just stared at the image. Let me make this clear. I didn't touch the man. I didn't plan anything. But someone did. And when Ellie called me, frantic, asking, "Was it you?" I realized something. She didn't believe I was the man she cheated on. She believed I was the man she made. A man who could hurt. But no, I didn't need fists. I already won. The reckoning wasn't loud. It wasn't a headline. It was slow, quiet, intentional. It was making peace in a home she tried to poison. It was living without looking over my shoulder. It was the calm she never learned how to live with. I didn't get revenge through violence. I got it through survival. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't ruin. It's resurrection.